This is the Aftermarket Radio Network.
Welcome to Speak Up Effective Communication here on the Aftermarket Radio Network. I'm your host, Craig O'Neill. Today's episode is titled, Shut Up. Hey, I'd be surprised if you haven't heard the old cliche that says, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth so we can listen twice as much as we talk. Now, if you're like me, after hearing this, you think about this very quickly and simultaneously begin to say something like, actually, we have 2 ears so we can tell where sound is coming from. And if you're like me, you've also probably been called a smart aleck many times in your life. And if you're like me, you've probably been told to shut up multiple times or scored some eye rolls, which sometimes is really the goal of small jokes. But actually, though, this episode is not as much about just stopping to listen, which is obviously a great skill. We talk about that regularly. This is more about pausing and leaving space for others to absorb information and engage with what we're talking about. We'll get into more of that in a moment, but first I want to thank our sponsors. And let me also say this for you. If you're listening with only 1 earbud, you're going to want 2 earbuds in for this part, because if you only have 1 earbud, it will be harder to tell where this podcast is coming from. Looking to take your shop to the next level of quality service, team culture, and overall profitability? At the Institute, we provide personalized coaching that aligns with your goals of financial stability, excellent customer service, and employee satisfaction. Our priority is helping you establish significant and sustainable progress. We work with you to create strategies that reduce the stress of running your business, improve your quality and performance, and optimize your profitability. Experience the benefits of professional coaching by visiting wearetheinstitute.com/business-assessment. Hey friends, as you know, I'm a proud member of the AutoFlow team, and let me tell you, we've changed how business is done for auto shops everywhere. We support your client experience before, during, and after the work is done. Imagine this: timely updates sent directly to your clients, branded digital vehicle inspections, and seamless communication from start to finish. That's why shops love AutoFlow. And hey, with those 5-star reviews rolling in, you'll wonder how you ever managed without us. Take an important next step and take your auto shop to the next level. Visit www.autoflow.com. Get on board with an AutoFlow trial. Are you ready to meet your perfect auto repair shop management software partner? Well, say farewell to the days of transactional relationships and hello to a true partnership that elevates your business. The #1 all-in-one solution is AutoLeap. You're not just getting software, you're gaining a dedicated ally committed to your success. AutoLeap will help you sell more, save time, and delight your customers at every turn. From scheduling appointments to creating estimates, generating invoices, managing technicians, and seamlessly syncing with QuickBooks to keep your records updated. Experience the difference a true partnership makes. Visit Autoleap.com and book a demo today. Autoleap, your trusted partner for success. Want to see your auto repair shop thrive? Are you looking to drive more customers to your auto repair shop? Let ShopDog Marketing be your guide. Our customer-first approach, combined with AI-driven creative content, ensures top rankings. Dominate mobile first and voice search with our specialized expertise. Reach out to ShopDog Marketing today and start growing your business. Don't miss out on this chance to boost your business. Visit shopdogmarketing.com. Inbound has exclusively served independent auto repair shops with expert communication solutions for years. Our robust VoIP platform ensures you stay connected while our industry-leading AI analytics take your business to the next level. We provide the tools you need to understand your customers and optimize every interaction. Choose Inbound for proven expertise and unmatched innovation. Visit callinbound.com and discover the difference we can make. Okay, welcome back. And yes, we are talking today about not talking. Now, I've told the story a few times. About a meeting I was in with my boss, Chris Cloutier. Yes, the meeting that ended with him giving me feedback on joining Toastmasters. The feedback had little to do with how I articulate things or spoke in general. It had everything to do with how I failed to leave room for others. This is a very common issue for both experienced and inexperienced or accomplished speakers alike. It doesn't matter. And this week alone, I heard some real life examples of similar feedback in my local Toastmasters club. We're going to get to that in a moment. Here's how this episode is going to work. First, I'm going to go over a few of those examples from my recent Toastmasters meeting. Then I'm going to go into a few recent cases I've had myself, kind of a win and a loss, a grow and a glow, if you will, from personal experiences on this very, very same topic. And then I want to go into why pausing is such a difficult skill to practice, and then why it is so powerful to master this ability in your speaking career or communication career, anything that you're doing. This has value in all walks of life. One-on-one conversation, presentations in front of a class, telephone calls, you name it. Pausing is priceless. All right, so let's begin with some examples. It was funny. As I was drafting this episode, I was at my regular weekly Toastmasters meeting, and we had two speakers planned that night from newer members, Colin and Jacob in this particular case. And we had two great evaluators in this meeting as well. So the speaking evaluators was Dylan JC and also then Evan Wisner. And what's interesting to me is I love how when my mind is on a topic, that things happen around me that really reinforce some of the points that I want to make here. So I think it's important. I'm not going to go into too much details on the speech that was given in the Toastmasters Club, but I do have recordings that I'll share of the evaluation. And I want to note that both speakers did an excellent job. They've been newer members, but are well connected in the club too. So the feedback given was really well received. And I'm just going to show a small sample of it. There's some more takeaways that I have from these speeches as well, but I want to stay very focused on this topic of pausing. And we're going to start with the evaluation that Dylan gave for one of our members. So let's take a listen to that right now.
Also pacing. You have this almost relentless speaking style where there's no real pauses to it. It's just word after word, sentence after sentence. And I don't know if you need to breathe, but sitting there watching you speak, I don't think you need to breathe. But it would be nice to hear a pause every now and then and just take a breath before continuing, maybe between paragraphs or portions of your speech.
So Dylan, I think, was spot on with this piece of evaluation, especially just that example that he did in that evaluation where he stopped and breathed. Now, a story that I'll tell as well from my own experiences. I remember back when I had hired Bob Greenwood to be my business coach back in the day. I was still managing in the family transmission shop, and things were just insanely stressful for the several months that I was engaging in that part of my career. And I remember having a consultation call with Bob where I was just going on and on and on and on and on and on about all the things that were a struggle that week. And he listened very patiently. It was wonderful. And his words still echo in my mind today where he says, okay, stop a minute, slow down, breathe, just breathe. It's like, okay, bring me back out of altitude and just down into a level area. And it was such a wise move to be able to move the conversation forward into a footing where I would be able to absorb what he wanted to be able to share and communicate with me. So breathing is such an important thing on this. Now, that's one example. Let's go ahead and take a look at another one as well. This evaluation came from Evan, who's been a guest on this podcast already as well.
Your speed and pacing is something that would probably have the most impact to alter a tiny little bit. You said things that were so powerful, then you just hopped on to the next thing. An example would be leaving me and my brother fatherless. See? Just heavy. Let it sit there as you move on to whatever the next thing you're going to say is. Another one you said it was plain that internal medicine was not for me. That's an important part of what you were trying to get across, why you were switching disciplines. So leave that, let it hang there. It was clear it wasn't for me.
Okay. So Evan gave some really good feedback in there. And I think it was neat that he took a moment in a very quick evaluation. That was a 2 to 3 minute evaluation in its entirety, but still found time to do that pause in there for the emphasis that he wanted to achieve. When something very heavy happens and you want to let that pause hang there so that people can absorb it, it's really, really powerful. We're going to talk a little bit more on that in a second. The reason I wanted to use those examples is those were actually back-to-back evaluations where very similar feedback was given. And so that's kind of the comfort here I want to express for everyone that's listening. If this is you and you know you have this problem, just know this, you're not alone. And I'm going to admit to you right now, I struggle with this in certain scenarios. Very recently, I had a good victory on this. I am always trying to get better at not talking in certain opportunities, especially when I was in a consultation this week, as a matter of fact, with Brandon Cruchet, one of our colleagues here at Autoflow. We were working with a client, and the client was actually expressing to us some of the things that we'd been planting seeds on and watering for a little while here. And their buy-in was finally there on a very specific topic. And they were explaining to us the benefit of the thing that we were discussing. And every fiber of my being, I wanted to chime in and fill in additional details. And this is another form of shutting down, not just in pausing in a speech, but letting the fact that the knowledge that you imparted is now able to be expressed by another individual. And I kid you not, I'm standing there. If my camera wasn't on, I'd probably have my fist in my mouth, like trying not to say something to either correct or overanalyze or get into some additional details on something. It's related. There's a lot of things that are related to this. But then I had a grow moment as well. As you know, we're working on this podcast. We're on episode 10 now. New format for me. And I'll tell you this, the most challenging thing about doing recordings versus doing a conversation with another guest is the fact that when I'm here by myself, it is just me. And Carm and Tracy, who do the post edits, hear things that aren't typical of my speaking when I'm in a conversation or with another person. And it can be very difficult if I'm going a mile a minute super fast because of whatever time constraint I'm in or any other excuse that I could throw out there. That makes a very difficult task on the post edits, I've learned through feedback. But here's the thing. Why is that a challenge? Now, it doesn't happen to me. I'm more comfortable in front of a group of people having an engaging conversation than I am with the energy in the room when it is just myself. And it turns out that's actually pretty common. When it's just you, and right now it is just me, I might as well be talking in front of a mirror, but that recording light is on. There is a waveform flashing across the screen. There is nothing normal about this form of communication when I know the audience, you, my listener, are experiencing this in a much different way than the way that I'm experiencing this end of the conversation. And that was the feedback from Carm, who is a master at this, by the way. And that is to treat this more conversational. And that's the mental journey that I'm on in these sort of episodes. So we're working on that, giving pauses for Carm and Tracy to make sure we have a good, smooth sounding episode for you. So that's a few recent examples. And I just wanted to make that very clear. Like you, like me, are probably going to drift inside and out of an ability to pause more meaningfully. And let's go into a little bit more on why this is so hard. I think this is a really, really fascinating topic because you learn things about yourself only when you start to do a certain type of technique or practice a thing. And this thing that we're talking about is really pausing, not just shutting up, not just letting others talk, but really pausing and letting that space that exists between you and your audience, whether it be 1 or 1,000, let that space be occupied either with silence or engagement. Now, why is this really, really hard? Well, I will say the chief reason for me to fail at pausing is when I'm trying to do too many things in a short period of time, or I have too much information that I want to impart in an unknown time frame. whatever case that is, it's very difficult to be mindful of pauses and feel comfortable with pausing or breathing when that's the situation. So time constraints are a big issue, and you'll see this as well. If you're in a class or a course where you're listening to someone on a quick phone call that you know has to end soon, you notice how the speed and tempo of the person starts picking up, and they can do it. I can talk fast, folks. I can. Is it effective? Probably not. Now, this is very closely related also to the use of filler words. And I say closely related because the underlying issue is typically just this. It's discomfort or anxiety. Yes, actual discomfort when you're sitting in your room, your own, talking to a screen. Yes, that exists when you're on a phone call with someone, especially if you know that phone call is being monitored and recorded. Yes, service advisors out there who have recorded phone calls do express that that increases their anxiety in some cases until you can forget about it and just focus on the conversation and the impact you're having on a person rather than worrying about what the person who might be monitoring the phone call is thinking about you. All of these things. But where it really comes in isn't about that fear of how people are receiving you or just the general discomfort. It's all based on a real simple fear, a fear of losing control. A fear of losing control makes it very difficult to pause and leave that space out there. But you can get over that fear, especially when you understand that there's real benefits for mastering that skill. Pausing helps the audience engage. So let's talk about this a little bit. I believe that pausing makes your message far more clear and lets your audience process details from your presentation. A lot of times in our industry, the automotive repair industry very specifically, we're giving a lot of details in a presentation. I talk to people all the time about relaying information on an inspection form and connecting clients and their relational needs and of the vehicle and all the things that you have to bring into a conversation and deliver an effective presentation that helps counsel and advise someone is loaded with facts and details and a lot of times terminology that people need a little extra space to absorb. And so if you have to make a point, stop, make the point, stop, breathe, and leave that space there. It'll help them remember what you say. So this is the next point. This helps people retain and remember what you are saying better. They will get more if you go slower and pause more. Next, I believe it's a more comfortable rhythm, and it's achieved with pauses, and it makes listening easier when it isn't all this stuff like a fire hose constantly streaming out. Those pauses make it far easier and more enjoyable for people to listen to you. They'll want to continue talking to you longer. That anxiety can go away. Breath control. When you can pause and you can actually control your breath in a communication setting, just like running or any other form of fitness, you perform better when you are not out of breath. Is one of the pieces of feedback from Karma is to take a fuller, more deep breath. And you get more words actually out on that exhale, and your point can come across more organized. It'll help you maintain your place. And when your breath is under control, you'll maintain your place and have more organized thoughts communicated clearly. The next thing is pauses aid in transitions, various segments on there. When you're talking about, I always relate this back to inspection form usage or some other form that I'm constantly communicating people on, and service advisors in particular. All right, these red things, Mr. Client, these should be taken care of because these things all affect safety, reliability, or efficiency of your vehicle. Now, these yellow items, these are maintenance items. On it goes. You can break things up with pauses, and you have these simple little techniques under your belt. Leave some space for people to absorb those thoughts. But most critically is this. If you pause long enough, this will open up your audience for more engagement. People are polite, and they are polite to a fault, to such a fault that they won't interrupt you with your fault for not pausing. People will fear interrupting you. They don't want to do that. This is really difficult in a virtual environment, especially if your audience doesn't have their camera on. I run into this all the time in my day-to-day life. I only see me, and sometimes they have lousy audio devices at the shop side. And I just go into presentation mode as though I'm in a recording room sometimes, and people aren't engaging me. That makes me go faster, and I forget to even check in sometimes. And so sometimes, hey, Craig, hey, can you stop a second? We got a question. It's like, okay, great. Yes, thank you for interrupting me. But folks, they don't always interrupt you. So just remember to pause, and they will engage you better. There's a lot of other interesting realities on this too. We'll have to do some further conversations with people on getting engagement with an audience. Folks, I've seen everything, and this is definitely a future episode on this topic, whether it be corporate settings or others. There's certain group sizes that make engagement very difficult and scary for the attendees. And there's larger groups that, wow, if you don't rein in engagement, you're going to lose control of the whole room. And then maybe you almost do need to be afraid of that. So lots of good talk on that. But the lesson today, slow down, breathe, pause, leave room for people to absorb the amazing things that you're speaking about, learn some details, and you will be a far more effective and more enjoyable communicator to be around. You've been listening to Speak Up Effective Communication. My name is Craig O'Neill. That's O'Neill. And I would love to hear from you on some speaking mishaps, some speaking challenges, some questions you have, or a topic you would like to discuss. Anything you want to learn more about, please reach out to me. I'd love to see your email at speakup@craigoneil.net. That's speakup, SPEAKUP at craigoneil.net, CRAIGONEILL.net. And of course, thank you to our listeners. And please check out the shows from my colleagues on the Aftermarket Radio Network. Of course, there's Carm Capriato's Remarkable Results Radio. And then there is, I would call him a technician philosopher, Matt Fonslow, on his Diagnosing the Aftermarket A through Z. Looking forward to having him as a guest in the future on this show as well. And industry power couple, Kim and Brian Walker's Auto Shop Marketing Podcast. And I'll say this for Hunt Demarest, the man who makes accounting sexy. CPA Hunt Demarest, Business by the Numbers. Definitely check that show out. I'm not a numbers guy. Hunt makes it way more fun anyways. Super cool guy. And don't forget Coach Chris Cotton with his weekly blitz. Great show. Have an action plan for your week. He's always got some great tips on there as well. Thank you so much for listening. And as always, remember to listen up before you speak up. Thank you.
You've been listening to Speak Up, Effective Communication with Craig O'Neill on the Aftermarket Radio Network. Follow Craig on your favorite podcast listening app and on his YouTube channel. Let him know what you'd like him to speak up about. Craig is all for advancing the automotive service aftermarket.